So there was a commissioner meeting today on December 11th, and there were many topics on the animal shelter, which is what I'm here to talk about, that just once again reinforce the failure mentality and idiocy of the leadership in Claremont County. I'm going to play three clips out of the meeting. Um, Most of the talking is all done by Mr. Thinskin, David Painter, who's a man who seems unable to admit that he is um, made a mistake when he tried to make the shelter government operated. So what I'm going to do in these clips is kind of highlight what I think shows Mr. Painter's complete lack of any sort of innovation, his thin skin, his tendency to mansplain things. The two ladies keep mostly quiet while he mansplains. A perpetual talking down to everyone. And that he is emblematic of everything that's wrong with uninnovative government and why we are so relieved to see people like Elon Musk come forward to try to fix some of this stuff. So let's get going with the clips. And let's start with clip number one, which is a segment that takes place right after public participation, where he just goes into a long oratory about the show.
I'd like to speak just for a second. We have most of the time that we have public participation, obviously we don't comment on things that are said, and we really don't place this out here. But it seems that we've kind of gotten off on the wrong foot here. And a lot of people really aren't educated on what it takes to run an animal shelter in this state and what the BCC is really responsible for.
One of those people would be Angie Livesay, who's running the shelter and went on the news saying she has no idea what she's doing. So let's remember, Mr. Mansplaining and talk down to everybody is we dumb citizens and volunteers that love animals. We're too effing stupid to know how to run a shelter. But Angie Livesay, who goes on the news saying she has no clue what she's doing, she knows what to do, and apparently David Painter knows what to do.
Yes, I want to make sure that you totally understand. By Ohio Revised Code, when you run an animal shelter, this board right here is responsible for everything that goes on at that animal shelter.
Bullshit. If you were responsible for what goes on in that animal shelter, you would be charged with crimes for abusing animals. But you hide behind being a government entity immune from prosecution for doing hurtful things to comfort animals, which you have done again and again and again. So you sit up there. These politicians like to use things as a shield and a sword, meaning that they are protected by the law from ever being accountable, but then they act like they're accountable because they're the government officials. It's complete bullshit. If you're accountable, Mr. Painter, then go turn yourself in for abusing comfort animals.
Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter who's running the animal shelter. It doesn't matter if it's a volunteer. It doesn't matter if it's an employee on the inside of the facility. It all comes back to the law, and the law is what dictates what we're allowed to do at an animal shelter. We appreciate the volunteers a ton, and I do, but volunteers don't run the shelter. They don't have the responsibility for the shelter. Volunteers are there so that when the director of the shelter and the staff of the shelter ask them to do a specific task, that's their task.
So let's stop right there. So he just said volunteers are there so that when the director of the shelter tells them to do a specific task, they do the task. Shut up, do the task. He has no concept. He is talking down. The guy, I'm anti-woke, but if you were thinking about the notion of a patriarchy, this is Mr. Patriarchy, is talking down to people, insulting them. It doesn't grasp his mind that a lot of volunteers have more skills, knowledge, capabilities, and even certifications than the employees do. So so you could have a vet want to be a volunteer. Is the vet supposed to be whatever the director says you do? You go clean that cage. Well, I'm a vet. Don't you think I should attend to this problem over here? No, you shut up. You do what I tell you. David Painter I don't know what his relationship is like with his wife, but man, I'm glad if I was a woman, I want to be his wife because I'd have to listen to his bullshit mansplaining and talking down.
If they don't want to do that task for a particular day, then it's okay to say, that's the task I have. Please come back on another day. But I want to make sure that folks fully understand that no one else has a responsibility to that. And we give that responsibility to our kennel director which is Angie, and to the staff over there.
Remember Angie, who's on the news saying she has no idea what she's doing. That's who David Painter, in his infinite wisdom, gave all that responsibility to. Basically, what he did, it's basically to have his person. This is the way politicians work. Not to have the best person or a person who knows what they're doing, but to have a person who has the skill that somebody like David Painter likes the most, which is loyalty to him. That's all that matters. Incompetent people in government thrive because what government is often about is loyalty to an individual like a clown like David Painter versus that you actually have the right skills for the job.
You know, one of the other things that comes up is people make a complaint against one of the staff, and then they want to know how that complaint is handled. So I want to make sure that you know how that's handled. That's handled internally at our HR. You don't get to be part of that. That's not part of the process. The process is they're a county employee and they're protected. You know, if somebody wants.
So let's remember this too, what he just said. So if you outsource your shelter, they're Humane Society employees. They're accountable. They're responsible. But what are they when they're government employees? Protected. That is the word he used, protected. That is what David Painter is about. Patronage, protection, people that are loyal to him.
Wants to know something, they can request a record, you know, of that. And then if those records need to be redacted or they need to be provided, we will provide them in a timely manner. But I just want to make sure that we all understand each other. You know, I would encourage anybody to pull the Ohio Revised Code. Some things that have been said in public participation here is that counties don't have animal shelters. Almost every county in the state has an animal shelter, and almost every county has a humane society.
Nobody's ever said that counties don't have animal shelter. I don't know if this guy's, I don't think he's on drugs or what. He just is a liar. He just is a consummate liar. Nobody's ever said that counties don't have animal shelters. What they've said is the vast majority of all counties outsource those animal shelters to a competent humane society. We are for, especially for a size county that we are, it is completely asinine that idiot tard David Painter decided that he could run an animal shelter, and his, I guess people tell me it used to be his assistant, Angie Livesay, with no experience whatsoever, that goes on the news and says she has no experience, that's who should be running an animal shelter.
Many counties do not contract their animal shelter to a humane society. They work in conjunction
almost
with
all
the humane
do.
society. Some do. Some invoke what's called 1717, the Ohio Revised Code, and they give those responsibilities to the Humane Society.
No, dumbass. They partner with the Humane Society. And the Humane Society does the basic minimum like what you do, and you do it half-assed. But the Humane Society then does all kind of other things, cats, fundraising, events. You know, that's what they do. They partner. You don't understand partner because you're too busy mansplaining, talking down to everybody.
But that doesn't mean that the Claremont County commissioners can relinquish that requirement per the law. They cannot. They're still responsible. So in other words,
they're responsible for meeting the minimum standards, and I think they have to employ the dog warden and stuff like this. This guy's an idiot. Let's just face it, he's an idiot, and he cannot admit he made a huge mistake. So now we're going to invent narrative number 3. First was that remember the first narrative was that the Humane Society operator was requesting too much money. Well, that got blown away by the county spending way more money than the Humane Society ever wanted. The second thing was that they were mismanaging. It was rat infested, all that kind of stuff. That was complete bullshit. So now we're on to something about his responsibility and all this kind of stuff. So we just keep changing the story. I'm surprised this guy's not at the national level in politics, because this is the kind of bullshit politician you get at the national level. In fact, we might have better bullshit politicians at the Claremont
regardless
County
of who we bring in to run the shelter, if that's the decision that we make. And in this meeting, we're going to pursue a request for a proposal for the management of that shelter and see what kind of proposals that we get in from agencies that might want to manage our shelter for us. And I have no reservation in that whatsoever. But what I want to make sure is no matter who comes in.
This is like a typical, passive aggressive person. I have no reservation whatsoever, but I'm going to try to make sure it all gets torpedoed and can't possibly work as part of this. I have no reservation, but So let's go back and hear some more of the King. So
In there.
down
This
to his
board
subject.
is responsible for their actions and for how they do that. So I just wanted to make sure we absolutely value
When have you ever been
the opinion of
responsible
our
for your own
volunteers,
action?
but our volunteers aren't lead people at the shelter. That is not relinquished to anyone.
So Elon Musk is a volunteer. Could you imagine Donald Trump saying he's not a lead person? He does what he's told. Painter is just a clown. I mean, I'm past the point of this guy being anything
Except
other
the
than a
staff
clown.
and the director and the commissioners in this board. So just to kind of set the record straight on that.
I don't know what he set straight. Okay, so that was clip number 1. That was right after public participation. Clip number 2 is going to be a couple of things. It's really clip number 2 is having to do with expanding the outdoor kennels, and then clip number 3 is putting it out for bid. So I'm going to start playing clip number 2, and just ask yourself this question: if you were not an idiot, okay, why would you put out a contract to expand the kennel outside right at the time you're trying to get a new operator? Wouldn't you, for example, hire the operator that is actually a partner, not somebody that's there to do what they're told, and get their input to be part of the process of how to improve the procedures at the shelter? But I guess Angie and David Painter came up with the solution as to what should happen. And then later we'll hire somebody in here to manage this place. It makes no sense that they would do this in this sequence. You would bring in an operator that knew what they were doing, consult with them, and start having them be the ones that set direction on what you do to improve the infrastructure. You know, the people that these operators, like the last one that was raising close to $1 million a year to supplement public funds, you know, those kind of people, the ones that actually can do shit and get stuff done because people aren't afraid to give money to them because it disappears in the government of this. So let's listen to the second part, which is about this is going to be all about getting the shelter, get some sort of new outdoor kennels.
Thank you.
Item number 15.
Morning.
Item number 15 is a recommendation to approve the request to advertise for bids for the Clermont County Animal Shelter outdoor kennel extension pursuant to the plans and specification, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on Thursday, December 19th, 2024, scheduling a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on Monday, December 30th, 2024 at 10 a.m. local time to be held at the Clermont County Animal Shelter, 4025 Philadelphia Road, Batavia, with bids to be received until 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, January 9th, 2025, in the office of the Board of County Commissioners, 101 East Main Street, Batavia, 45103, where they will be publicly opened and read aloud. This notice will also be posted in Clermont County website at the link.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 15. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Then moved and second. Further comments? Anything?
Just glad we're getting it.
Mhm.
It's a big step.
Interesting to see what's out there and what we receive back.
You bet. So we are going to bid this contract to see if one of the entities in Clermont County would give us a acceptable proposal to be able to manage the contract in accordance with the board's expectations, which.
Yeah.
Oh, this is just for the kennel expansion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So he's confused because this is a discussion about expanding the kennel. He can't even remember what they're on. And he's talking about bidding out the services to
Sorry.
run things.
So this will be for the kennel expansion
Right.
and
in the back of the shelter.
Back to the shelter.
and just talk about that for a second. I totally got off on a different subject. Obviously, you can your emotions kind of run when you get in public participation. So just want to talk about one particular issue about this. This particular issue is there was some time ago that Nestle Purina gave a $20,000 donation to Clermont County. And that $20,000 donation was to be used for an outdoor play area. And before we got it built, volunteers stepped up and they built that outdoor play area. And so then the outdoor play area was complete and the dogs had a place to play outside. And we were really appreciative for the donors who came forward and the people that volunteered to build that outdoor play area. And so that Nestle Purina money got put into the general operations fund of the kennel, and that money was used for that purpose. Now there was always money left over there, so that 20,000 wasn't done. 20,000 wasn't done. Due to some inquiries from volunteers and from people on the outside, they didn't feel that money was used correctly. We contacted Nestle Purina. I have been in contact with them on a couple of times by email and by letter, and we have made a commitment to, again, reauthorize $20,000, which will be identified as their money, to be used in this kennel extension. So I want to make sure that the $20,000 that Nestle Purina gave us never went away, was still available. We use it for its intended purpose.
So this is complete bullshit. They spent the $20,000, and Angie Livesey was in a meeting that they spent the $20,000 on other operation stuff. Now he's going to act like, well, it was always there, always there. No, you're. I don't know how to run a shelter. Shelter director Angie Livesey said in a meeting that the money was already spent. Now you're basically saying we stole the money, used it for a different purpose, and we're going to reallocate 20,000 and we're going to say it's from them, so we cover our ass on having stole the money. But instead of just telling the truth, you have to have this bullshit
And instead of using it for an outdoor play area, we are going to put it into this particular kennel expansion. So there will be a separate line given to that for that $20,000. And then Nestle Purina obviously will be notified when that money is spent for that particular purpose. So just want to make sure we're absolutely clear on that and we don't lose sight of that $20,000.
So here's a question. Was Nestle Purina notified when their money was spent on other miscellaneous operations thing? Because apparently now they're going to be notified of what their money is being used for, but their money was already used. He just can't be honest and say, we used the money for different purposes. It was wrong to do that. We are now going to reallocate $20,000 so that we get back to square away on this. He has to make it sound like we never did anything wrong, because the guy is incapable of making a mistake. If only Jesus could be as strong, as right as David Painter is on everything.
Now, the rest of this project will be paid out of capital funds, and capital funds are revenues that come to the county. And so this project is funded appropriately and will be built from those funds. Now, rough order of magnitude, do we know anything on this project?
It looks like 61 new outdoor kennels, so it'd be expanded out of the back. So you have the existing fenced area in the back where people park, the public parks, and that'll be expanded out another, almost double the size, Brian.
Yes, they're utilizing some of the existing space.
Okay.
Not quite as
And what this will enable us to do is this will enable us to get more canines out of the kennel so we can do all the cleaning activities that need to be done in the kennel without the dogs being in there actually occupying the indoor kennels. So I think we have 55 indoor kennels. Is that about right?
Somewhere around there.
Okay. So and that's the swing zone for our kennel is about that 55 number. That's where we fit the best. When we get over 55, then we have to go into other alternative means, getting dogs to fosters and obviously using pop-up kennels. So not something we want to do, but just want to make sure we're going to spend $60,000 and $20,000 of this is Nestle Purina's money that they donated to that purpose. So got it? We got it. All right.
The budget office is aware of that.
You bet.
We are.
Roll call.
So just to be clear again, it's not Nestle Purina's money. They already spent Nestle Purina's money. They got called on the carpet for it because they got caught. Here's the press release where they said that what they were going to spend the money for in 2022. Okay. And they spent the money on stuff other than what they said. Now they're trying to cover their ass. So they're just effing liars. They're just liars and deceivers. Painter's like, I'm telling you, he could be in Washington, D.C. I'm a conservative, unlike apparently David Painter. And he sounds like he should go for press. If a Democrat gets elected president again, he should go for press secretary because he's pretty good at making up fables as to what happened. But the other thing about this that's just so stupid is they're going to then put $60K of taxpayer money into it. Because remember, they spend like 4 times more money than the prior shelter operator ever wanted now. I think if there was a fair accounting. And, without any consultation with who they might hire to be a shelter operator, because they can't partner with anybody. David Painter cannot be a partner to anybody. He is like a little, I don't know, he's like a hillbilly dictator or something from Claremont County that thinks his shit doesn't stink. He can't do anything wrong. Everything he says is like Jesus said it, and it's not true. And so people can't work with him. They can't deal with him. And this $60,000, remember the prior operator was fundraising about $1 million per year, just under $1 million per year. Could you imagine? Maybe you get an operator in there, and then all of a sudden people are willing to give money again, and they could fund these projects. It could become the Jeff Weiler outdoor kennel area or something like that. But David Painter can't think that way. He's the most, as I said, most uninnovative, thin-skinned person. He's not the most. There's a lot, but he's just in this realm. So they're going to vote on this, and then we'll go to
Commissioner
clip number
Corcoran?
3.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so now we're going to go to clip number 3, which is the actual hiring somebody to do what they're told.
So we will move on to
Not
item number
really.
16.
Item number 16 is the recommendation to approve the request to advertise for proposals for dog kennel management for Claremont County, Ohio, pursuant to the specifications, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on December 19th, 2024, with said proposals to be received until 2 p.m. local time on Thursday, January 9th, 2025.
I just want to make a comment here. So January 19th is a Thursday. The press deadline for the Claremont Sun, which is the joke paper of record for Claremont County, is Tuesday. So hopefully it's actually going to be in the paper. The Thursday paper is available at your local stores on Saturday or Sunday because it's the Claremont Sun and it's pretty much of a joke.
In the office of the Board
But
of
let's
County
keep going.
Commissioners, 101 East Main Street, Batavia, where they will be publicly opened and read aloud pursuant to and in compliance with Section 30128 of the Ohio Revised Code. This notice will also be posted on Claremont County's website, claremontcountyohio.gov.
By the way, I think I'll submit a proposal just so that it can be opened and read
So now
aloud.
we're back to the other conversation. First of all, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Now conversation. So now we're back to, this is the request for proposal to ask for bidders to give us, and they will give us their proposal of how they would operate this kennel and how they would cover all of the requirements of the Ohio Revised Code for operating a shelter. But just to be out there, we are still responsible for the operation of the shelter, and so that never is.
He's basically saying we will be not like we have in the past. Nobody will be able to work with us. We'll be petty. We'll be stupid. We'll be micromanaging. We will put people in place that have no clue what they're doing, like Angie Livesay. And so why would anybody want to bid on this? Okay. Why would anyone bid to Mr. Talk Down Mansplain to tell you what to do all the time?
Was from the
So-
County Board of Commissioners. So there really is no what you would call shelter for word. They cannot shelter us from the requirements of what the law says for us to provide here. So
Nobody's ever said that, dumbass. And what they have also brought up, though, is they can do a lot of shit you can't do, like cats. You could do cats, but you just don't want to because you apparently hate cats. But cats, fundraising, there's a whole variety of things a private operator can do that government can't do. And nobody's ever said that somehow allows them to skirt the responsibilities. The reality is they do a much better job at the responsibility.
that is where we're at. Okay. Roll call, Gail.
Commissioner Batchelor?
Yes.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. Thank you, Angie.
And Angie, can I just ask for clarification? We don't have a PA system at the shelter.
We do not have a PA system. correct?
So the rumors that are going around that all this is on a PA system for people to hear.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we didn't put in a PA system.
All of the kennel techs have headsets that they wear.
Yeah.
around, but there's no like speakers above the system. It'd be really convenient if there was.
Okay.
And so specifically, if somebody was going to listen to something that they were doing while they were doing their task, or whether that's music or that is an instruction as to them becoming a police officer, they would do that on their headset.
Their headsets, or I know they have like a portable speaker for when the inmates are there. They play some music, that kind of thing.
Well, that's okay. You can, it's
Right.
not like they're putting it so everywhere anybody can hear, but while they're working, they can plug in and have it even on their headset or even have it out loud. But okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all.
Perhaps David Painter could make soothing audio cassettes that people could listen to of his soothing voice. telling
Done,
them
by the
how
way.
to do everything.
Item number 17.
Item number 17 is the recommendation to approve the voluntary.
So this is actually a kind of a fourth thing, and this is pretty quick. This is the volunteer policy. It's not going to get approved, but this is somehow they want to clamp down on volunteers because we know that some uppity volunteers actually give a rat's ass and don't accept the notion of they're just supposed to do whatever Angie Livesay tells them and otherwise get the hell out. So let's just play this real quick. This is the part on
policy for the
volunteer
Claremont County
policy.
Dog Kennel and to authorize the implementation effective upon approval.
Or do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. I'll second it. I'll put it out here on the table. Open discussion.
The only discussion and consideration I would like an additional line item or item placed on each one. I would like to have a witness signature and date for every document.
On the acknowledgement forms.
Yes, on all the acknowledgement forms, correct. Thank you.
Would you like to bring that back then with the completed? Would you
Sure.
like to bring it back with it fixed
Bring back a motion with,
or bring back the document with that in there
okay.
and then pass that document?
Yeah.
Would that be better?
Tom, what do you-
Do we want to bring the policy back next week for
That'd be great,
consideration
please.
with that change?
Let's,
So we can
Okay,
table
well,
it till next week.
yeah,
or-
we'll take, but Bonnie, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to do that because I got the email at 3:46 yesterday afternoon, so I'm not prepared
Okay.
to vote on this.
So then I'd ask for a motion to table item number 17, the recommendation to approve a volunteer policy for the dog kennel until time certain, which will be Wednesday of next week.
Okay.
Okay.
Good enough?
Wait,
Motion?
Motion?
Yes.
Okay. I'll second. Do we need to remove the other motion too, though?
Yeah, we
Or
just
not?
take,
So I'm going to leave it at that. They end up not doing anything. There's another segment that I didn't put in here that is on people, Painter talking about public participation at the end. I'm going to make that a whole separate segment because it's more Painter bullshit where they want to clamp down effectively on public participation. And, but here's a point. If you're going to have a volunteer policy, what about the crazy idea of having an open session for volunteers to give you reactions, responses, and comments on the volunteer policy instead of just ramming something through where the commissioners haven't even read it or had a chance to read it? You know, it's basic management 101. These guys don't have it. This looks like another self-fulfilling prophecy of failure where we do not get our shelter run efficiently. We continue with the nightmare. We continue to have no cats. We continue to have revolving door. And we continue to have management of the shelter that is selected based on their loyalty to David Painter versus their competence. Remember, Angie Livesay is about loyalty, not competence. The woman has gone on the news herself and says she doesn't know what she's doing running a shelter, but she does know who her daddy is, and that is David Painter, and her loyalty and patronage is what makes it work. So that's a summary of what happened today at the animal shelter, relating to the animal shelter at the county commissioners meeting. It just looks like David Painter has done what he does best, put a bunch of poison pills, lack of trust, talking down, mansplaining to make him be somebody that is the smartest guy in the room, who's actually the dumbest guy in the room, that ultimately I would be shocked that any true decent provider either bids on this or provides any sort of input to it. Let's keep in mind that Claremont Cares, now I guess Cincinnati Cares, provided these guys with provided a list of 20 key points for successful shelter operations. It doesn't matter. We just rip it up. Just rip it up. We don't care what people that know what they're doing do. We want Angie Livesay that has no clue what she's doing to be making all the decisions. Thank you, David Painter. You are a treasure. You're something really special.